The game I'm looking at today in this video is from Command Magazine number 6. So this goes all the way back to 1990. I believe this is a Thai Bomba design called Krim, von Manstein's Battles for Sevastopol, 1941 and 1942. And it has a very small map. I mean, I'll show you, I can just open the whole thing up here. Had it upside down. Here you go. Get this right. It's a half map. And then the map that you play on is, only half of that, but it does have most of what you need for charts on it. So that's good, except it doesn't have the barrage combat table. Typical Thai Bomba game, it is streamlined, but this one does have a little bit more chrome than some of his later games do when you really get into streamlining. So the sequence of play is pretty simple. You have a mutual operations supply check at the start of the month. And the way the turns work, some months have 3 turns in them. Some months have 1 turn, depending on what the weather was and the season. But at the start of the month, you check mutual supply operations. So they're operational supply. So you have operational supply sources and you check to see if the units are in supply or not. So it's kind of good to have them in supply at the beginning of the month. Then there's another tactical supply that is actually determined when units move or when they fight, and do they actually have a supply line at that moment, which will affect them in combat or movement. Then the play starts with the Soviet turn. They have new units that are brought in, operational transfer phase, moving from off map or out of theater, and then they have the regular map movement phase and then prepared assault. The Germans have the similar set of phases, new units that come on, then operational transfer, then movement. But some of the German units, many of the mechanized units, can do mobile assault. And so basically I think that they triple the cost of their movement to actually attack during the movement phase. And then after that, they have a prepared assault. And then at the end of the month, depending on what type of turn, there's another mutual operations supply check. So that's basically how the game goes. And it's the whole thing set up around capturing Sevastopol. That is pretty much how you're going to determine how this game goes. And there's a very small area, and it's just a typical Thai Bomba move and fight it out. There are stacking stacking limitations. I think it's up to 4 divisions can be in a hex, and that non-divisional units like brigades or regiments or battalions count as a half a division for stacking purposes. So that's pretty much what goes on. There are some special rules. As I already said, the Germans, some of the German units can mobile assault or overrun, is another way to put it. The Soviets have sea movement that they can use in certain settings. They can have landings, and there are some rules about the Kerch Straits. So those are some things that come into play. There are terrain effects that can affect combat and movement, and some of the terrain is natural terrain, some of it is man-made terrain like the cities and towns or fortifications and entrenchments. So these are some of the rules that come into play with this game. There's also a very abstract air system where air units, which are a group of variety of units that can be used in ground attack and for attack and defense, that can come into play. It has some effects. There are some rules regarding artillery barrages, and there's a barrage table. It's very simple based on the amount of points of artillery fire. It's either hit or miss. And if you wipe out a hex so that there's nothing left in it, if there are other units within a certain range, they can move up to 3 hexes and advance after the barrage. So that's an interesting thing that can happen. There is also rules for the Black Sea Fleet to barrage. Even though there's no counter for it, they can reach certain hexes inland. The game also has some special rules for Romanians that were involved in this battle, and the fact that the Romanians were managed by Manstein, and basically the Romanians have to take losses as retreats first, and if they're in a mixed group with Germans, the German units all have to take hits before the Romanians do. So that's a special rule that is in this game. There are mountain units, and these have enhanced movement abilities in mountain terrain. There are rules for Soviet anti-tank units, which can affect their combat effectiveness. There is an independent paratrooper battalion of the Soviets. They enter the game and they have to do a paradrop. So there are a few rules that cover that. There is the Germans have a combat engineer, so they get an advantage in assault or even overrun, I believe, from engineers if they happen to be involved. The 300th Panzer Regiment was equipped with Goliaths, so there's a special rule to cover the Goliaths. And I believe there's also a rule for the 30th Corps assault boats. So these also can be used in combat along the coast where the boats can be used. There are flak rules that can limit the air effectiveness in certain hexes. And then there are also cavalry charges by the Soviets. So these are some of the basic rules in the game. It's fairly simple. I think there's like 15 turns maybe in the whole game. It plays very quickly, low counter density. So I'll just go through some details of what happened in my playthrough of this game. So at the beginning of the game is where the initial attack is launched, and the picture here shows the German 11th Army is launching an attack into Crimea. And on the first turns of the game, the Soviets really have to be concentrated, on retreating. So that's what's going to be happening here. You can see the Soviet units are the red ones. The black units are German mechanized, and the gray units are German regular, and the green units in there are Romanians. And you can see the two Romanian units that you see there are, there's a mountain unit and a flak unit. So that's what's happening in that first picture. This second picture is now showing how the Soviet army is trying to disperse in retreating toward Sevastopol. They're trying to slow the Germans down as much as they possibly can to spread out the German troops here. Then in this next picture, we see where the German forces finally are able to capture Zarabas. You've got an engineer unit there at that railroad junction. And you can see that the Soviets have had some air units that have been available for this combat. There's also a rail line running through, which helps get across these rivers and through that rough terrain. This next picture shows the more eastern part of the map, where you see Krim there, and you've got a fairly strong Soviet defense, but that railroad, as it goes off the right side of the picture, goes into the Kerch Straits area. So here we have the Wehrmacht is advancing toward the sea, and you've got some Romanian troops there, which I believe are a heavy weapons unit, and you've got some assault guns as well. This next picture shows that Simferopol has fallen along the railroad line there. It's under German control, but the Soviets are sneaking the 321st Infantry Division in there, threatening to capture that location. Also, we see some Soviet artillery that are employed along the railroad track behind the river, the 265th. You've also got a mountain infantry, or Soviet rifle infantry, the 77th in Sevastopol, and you've got the Sevastopol militia unit there manning the fortification. It's kind of a weak unit, but this is what's happening in the main area around Sevastopol. In my next picture, I'm showing the Wehrmacht on the eastern side of the map, where you can see the Germans are having difficulties moving against Feodosia, which is at the very end of that rail line. The Germans do have some panzers in there and assault guns and some flak coming in, but the Soviets have a very strong position here where they're defending. And if you go all the way off the edge of the map, you get to the end of the rail line at the Kerch Strait. Now back over to the western part of the map, you find what's happening near Sevastopol. You've got a very powerful force in the fortification there, and the 77th Rifle Division is really leading that attack, and both sides have air support going in here, but the terrain is a problem. You've got the Germans have some light infantry there, as well as some regular infantry, but they are dwindling a little bit in strength, so they've got their hands full against the 77th Rifle Division. Then after heavy fighting, you can see in the next picture, Sevastopol finally falls. You've got the 62nd Light Division that is in control of the fortification there. This last picture is kind of where the game is wrapping up toward the end, and you see the Germans are trying to attack the Kerch Strait, but the Soviets have a very strong position there. They've got their naval infantry are holding out, as well as some artillery, but they have plenty of air support as well. You can see some of the diverse German units that are here. You've got some Luftwaffe flak. You have the railroad artillery unit is in there, and you've got some assault guns, engineers, and Romanian troops. So that's kind of where the battle ends up. What the end result here is, because the Germans were not able to capture Kerch, the Soviets are going to actually win like a moral victory. You know, the fact is the Germans will eventually get this, but the fact that they could hold out is going to do something for the morale. Anyway, this is a quick and dirty game. I guess I didn't comment to this, but this German, the 30 ad hoc unit there in the bottom is actually assault boats. I may have commented on them earlier, but they have to be used along the coastal hexes, but they do have the ability to get to have a unique movement because they are flotilla. Anyway, thank you for watching this, and this game can be found in the secondhand market very affordably. So it's a quick game, and it's one of Ty Bomba's better games. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.